Okay, so please let me know if you can see my screen. And someone tell me if you can see my screen, please.
It's visible.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So the topic of our today's webinar is efficient business analysis information management. And as all of you who have come today doing business analysis activities, I think you are all aware of what that is. I want just to probably add a little bit more clarity into the subject and also to discuss some moments that I've seen in my personal practice and also in the work of other business analysts that can potentially probably be improved. So in case you have any questions or comments, I propose we first finish with the webinar's agenda, and then we can discuss all the open questions and comments, and probably you can share some practices from your experience that we can discuss at the end. So let me know if the slide has changed. Is it changing? Because sometimes it...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you very much. So again, thank you very much for joining. I know that you may all be from different countries and it is different time of the day for you. So thank you for making it happen. This webinar is being hosted by Advanced Age Professional Services. We are based in Toronto, Canada, and we specialize in providing online business analysis courses specifically for IIBA exams preparation. And we are proud to have the status of the endorsed education provider of IIBA. My name is Anastasia Antina, and I will be hosting this webinar today. So on this slide, I want just to briefly tell you about our services. This is ECBA CCBA certification preparation course and CBAP certification preparation course. They are different in the number of professional development hours that you can earn. In case you're interested, you can visit our website anytime. And as this is one of the webinars, I believe this is webinar number 4 in our series of bi-weekly free webinars. The next webinar will happen on October the 9th. That will also be Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, as today. And the subject of that webinar will be positive business analysis culture and stakeholder trust. So let's proceed with today's webinar's agenda. So we are going to talk about efficient business analysis information management. We will be talking about what business analysis information is, the examples of business analysis information, common misconception, and also the structure of business analysis information. And we will describe some best practices and what deficient information management is. Okay, so let's start with the definition, because as you know, the topic of today's webinar is efficient business analysis information management. And I think that it is a good idea to start with the term what business analysis information is in order to know how we can manage it efficiently, right? Because obviously, if we do not know what stands behind the term itself, we cannot manage it efficiently. So, and here I will refer to the Business Analysis Body of Knowledge, one of the major books in the area of business analysis that was published by the International Institute of Business Analysis. And the guide to the Business Analysis Body of Knowledge tells us that business analysis information, and for me, this phrase here is super important. It is all the information business analysts elicit, create, compile, and disseminate in the course of performing business analysis activities. Why is this important? Because it doesn't say that this is the requirements documentation. It doesn't say that these are just the grids, the wireframes, and the models we create. It is all the information that you, as a business analyst, elicit, create, compile, and disseminate, which already adds more information into the understanding, like what should we manage as business analysts on the initiatives, right? So here, everything you see is considered to be business analysis information. Meeting agenda that you prepare to communicate with your stakeholders, as well as the meeting notes that you publish afterwards and probably elaborate a list of action points, is business analysis information. Any grid, flowchart, a diagram, a model is considered to be business analysis information. User stories that you create, any more technical documentation is also API documentation, is also business analysis information. Even assumptions log, concerns, the list of concerns that your stakeholders share with you is also considered to be business analysis information. So more examples would include, as I've already mentioned, any communication results, right? Meeting agendas, meeting notes, list of action points. It will also be good to include access info and credentials to different platforms relevant to the initiatives, to the understanding of the business analysis information. Assume you are working on an initiative and you need to be able to log in to some third-party services. Probably you are integrating with a payment provider such as Stripe, right? And you receive access from your business stakeholders to the sandbox environment. And you receive those credentials, the access information, in an email. Well, a good practice is to go and store it somewhere where all your business analysis information is. This is also part of business analysis information. Then it is any interview results, observation results, any documents that you create, you compile, documents you receive from your stakeholders. Probably you need the organizational chart, right, of the organization that you are working for, or business rules, or decision rules, or probably you receive a technical or not so technical documentation from a third-party provider in case you are going to integrate with them or use their services. This is also an example of business analysis information. Of course, everything that you create as part of the requirements documentation or functional design specification, such components as wireframes, schemas, grids, use cases, user stories, models, all this is, of course, business analysis information. Then any communication results, as I've mentioned before, such as stakeholder concerns, approvals, confirmations, decisions, assumptions, probably yours or theirs. It is also business analysis information. And depending on your role, because as we know, business analysis activities nowadays are not only done by business analysts, so to say, right? Your job title may be different. Maybe you are a product owner, a product manager, or a business analyst team lead. Depending on your role on an initiative, project plan, business case, product backlog, release notes, risk register, all these documents can also be part of the business analysis information. One common misconception from my observation while working with other business analysts, what I see is that many people doing business analysis activities believe that business analysis information is only limited by requirements documentation, right? Only by this item here, wireframe, schemas, grids, use cases, user stories, and models, which is not true, right? Business analysis information, of course, includes these types of business analysis artifacts, but it is business analysis information goes far beyond than just that definition. So once you see business analysis information differently, once you see what is included into that, and it is not just the requirements documentation, you understand that probably you should approach this a little bit differently, right? So this was our terminology about the business analysis information as a whole. And please pay attention, and I will be talking about this a little bit later, but by naming all these different examples of business analysis information, I am not saying that this is everything that you should document and store on the daily basis. No, because we always have common sense, we have different contexts, we have different initiatives, right? And we do not want to spend time to waste time on those activities that are not needed. Here, I'm just showing the examples of all the types of business analysis information. I'm not saying yet that you should document everything what is named here. So the typical misconception, we have covered this. So it is not just functional or technical or requirements documentation, right? It is not just something that has been reviewed and approved probably by the key stakeholders. Basically, business analysis information is any piece of data, any information that you elicit, right, from somebody that you create, compile, receive, distribute, or share, right? These words here on this slide can be read like in couples. You either elicit or you receive. You create or you compile by having other different types of documents. You distribute or you share, right? So all these verbs, so to say, your activities, they create the business analysis information. And now, as the topic of our webinar is efficient business analysis information management, we have already talked about what business analysis information is. Now let's talk about efficient management, right? To manage means to control the use of or to maintain control or influence over something, right? It's like being in charge. You are in charge of all those pieces of data that you elicit, receive, create, compile, distribute, or share, right? If someone shared access with you to a third-party vendor, such as Stripe in my example before, it is your responsibility to be in charge of it, to decide where and how to store it, and who should have access to it, right? So management is about being in control of something, being in charge of something. And efficient means, and this is an important thing here, because we will never be able to define one correct answer that will work on all initiatives fairly well, right? Efficient means maximum productivity with minimum wasted effort, which refers back to my comment that it is not everything that you should document. You should make decisions on the regular basis about what is worth documenting and understand the why behind these activities, why you are doing this and why it is worth documenting. So basically, when we talk about efficient business analysis, information management, and of course, this might happen in most cases at the beginning of an initiative, right? Let's cover the questions that should be answered. So where to store the information, right? What are we going to use? What tool are we going to use to store the information that we elicit, create, compile, and so on? What information to store, right? Out among all those pieces of data that we receive, documentation, communication results, approvals, and so on and so forth, what are we going to store, right? The types of the data that we want to store. Who should have access to this information? Probably particular stakeholder groups or individuals. Should they have or not have access to the information that you store? And the next question is the type of the access they need, because this is also critical to understand. Like, I want John Smith, who is a key business, who is a key stakeholder, to have access to all the information that we store. And I also have to think about the level of the access he should have, right? Should he be able just to view or to edit or to comment or to delete the information? Because in case you provide someone with irrelevant level of access, they can contribute as efficiently as they would if they had the needed level of access. How to organize the information? That's the next important question. Why? Because you are storing and doing all this, manage all the business analysis information in order for you and for other stakeholders to be able to use it anytime you want, right? And to be able to locate, to find the information you need anytime you want. And the way you organize this information influences how fast I can navigate that structure and find what I need so that I can use it. Or it takes hours for me to find, or I need to always ask someone to help me find something. Eventually, I don't find what I need, and then my work is either blocked or I do it not in the correct way because I don't have the documentation that I need. Right? The next question here is how to manage the relationships between the information. And this is also important, and I like this item. Think about all those pieces of information that we have just discussed, right? The wireframes, assumptions, concerns, project plan or timeline, probably as a big puzzle, as a big picture, right? And each piece of that information is represented as a small piece of puzzle, right? And when you add a new piece, when you document it, it should be from the same picture. And in order for it to be linked to that bigger picture of everything you already have, you need to find the relationships with other pieces of data that are already present in your knowledge base, probably. How long will the information be needed? That's the next question. And one important note here is that typically business analysis information management may not be over once the project or initiative is over. Assume you have developed a product, it has been released to production. It doesn't mean that you don't need to manage business analysis information anymore. First of all, one of the core reasons is that the product may be updated or it may be improved later on, and that documentation will be needed and business analysis information. And the other good reason is that the information that you have already managed and used for one initiative may be sometimes reused for other initiatives, and this will save you time, effort, and money. And then the next question is the breadth and the depth of the information you are going to store. So how detailed your information will be. And the answers to all these questions can be summarized in business analysis information management plan. And I will show you an example. But before we do that, I want to add one more note. So I've started talking about these questions here with the phrase that typically this activity would happen at the beginning of an initiative, right? A new project is started or initiative is started, and you need to understand how you will approach this activity, business analysis information management. But another important thing to remember is that it is not a one-time answer. You do not answer these questions once, right? Because the initiative goes on, it develops, circumstances change, context may change, stakeholders may change, anything may change during the course of an initiative. So make sure that you revisit these questions sometime later, and probably you do this regularly in order to keep your business analysis information management plan relevant and up to date, not to make it an outdated document that was once developed. You followed that plan, for example, for first couple of months, but then it became irrelevant, never updated, and therefore everybody stopped referring to it and using it, right? For this not to happen, we need to understand that those answers that we give at the beginning of the initiative should be regularly revisited and updated and documented in the business analysis information management plan so that we can keep using it, right? So these activities, these questions are recurrent. And now let's proceed to the next slide. And so business analysis information management plan. I know that not on every single initiative you will need this, right? Because depending on the size of the initiative, maybe there are just 3 people in the team, right? Or maybe there are 15 people in a team. It depends. It depends on the level of formality, right? How formal your organization and the initiative itself are. It depends on the time that you can spend on this. But still, it is a good practice to have this business analysis information management plan documented somewhere and available to everyone. And here on this slide, I am listing several benefits of doing so. Well, first of all, not all your stakeholders who you work with, especially stakeholders from the business side, will always be familiar with the practice of business analysis and what business analysis is and what you are doing here, why you are documenting everything that they give you, and so on and so forth. And elaborating, documenting, and presenting some business analysis information plan for your stakeholders will set the common ground for your future collaboration, right? And will basically define the rules of collaboration. Then, in case there are several business analysts working on the same initiative, business analysis information management plan will help you sync your efforts, because you may be working on one piece of documentation, the other person, the other business analyst will be working on the other type of documentation. And for all those business analysis artifacts not to look differently, but to be rather a cohesive whole because they are built within one initiative, you should follow the same rules for documentation, right? And that's where the business analysis information management plan can help you. In case something changes on an initiative and a new BA or product owner, project manager, whoever is being onboarded, or any new stakeholder is being onboarded, you already have this documented and you can share this with them and help them understand what's going on. And also, in case you revisit those questions that I have just shown here, you know where to document those updates, right? You go to your business analysis information management plan and document those updates. So I have prepared an example here. I'm using Confluence. I think this is probably one of the most popular tools for business analysis information management, especially on software development projects. And I wanted just to show you an example. It is not considered to be like 100% ready. This is just a draft plan in order. Sorry, someone is saying something and I cannot really hear you.
I believe you just need to mute this person.
Oh, okay. Just a second.
Yeah, it's already done.
Okay. Okay, good. You can see my screen, right? With Confluence.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I was saying that this is just a draft example. It hasn't been taken from any real initiative. It has been developed like from scratch. And this is just to show you how a business analysis information management can look like, right? It can have an overview because you are publishing it not only for you to understand what's going on, but also to present it to the relevant stakeholders so that they also understand what this is. Right? So you can provide like the goal, what this document is, and who it has been created by and why you need this. Then you can list the types of the documents. Basically, what you are documenting here is the answers to those questions that we have just discussed, right? What information to store, like any access and credentials, any stakeholder communication results, functional and technical design specification, any project-related documents. So you just say what you are going to store and what other people can store here. Where to store? So we are saying that this right here, our Confluence space, is the major source for storing all the data. We are also going to use a Jira project space for tracking progress, and we are going to cross-link those two resources for convenience, right? And also we can define here the level of detail, right? And select the requirements or information attributes that should be documented for anything that we put in our knowledge base. For example, the unique identifier, the source, cost if relevant, probably, status, priority, complexity, and then we can also reference our stakeholders and say who can access it. So once you have this document, you can share it with your team, you can share it with your business team probably and other stakeholders so that you all know how information is going to be managed. And this is one of the steps to build the solid ground and like the foundation for your efficient collaboration, because everybody now know that this is where you store the information and how you store it. Okay, let's proceed. I will not change to the slideshow because I will go back and forth between Confluence and the presentation here. So about the level of detail, different books on business analysis suggest that you consider such attributes or parameters for each piece of information that you store, such as unique identifier, author, ownership, source, cost, and so on and so forth. You can see all those parameters on the slide here. But again, it is up to you to select only those information attributes that you think are valuable on your initiative, on the initiative you're currently working on, right? It is not necessarily, you will not necessarily need all of those parameters, right? Maybe just some of them. Maybe you will need more than here. It depends on the context, and it is the decision of the business analyst, the types of the attributes that you will need. And probably even the list of those attributes will vary depending on each type of the information you store, right? If you are developing probably a wireframe, you will include one list of attributes, and this will be a consistent list for all the wireframes that you create. But if you are storing a document provided by a third-party vendor, it will be another set of attributes, right? More relevant to this type of documents. And the next thing is about the storage itself, right? We live in a very fast world, and previously people tend to use emails more often, right? And in more formal environments, you can still see people exchanging emails as the main source of communication. There can be offline communication going on, and also we have instant messaging systems such as Slack, Skype, Microsoft Teams, and some other types of messaging solutions as well. And several times in my practice, during my experience, I've seen when important pieces of information, especially in less formal environments, may be exchanged in those instant messaging solutions. And the goal of an efficient business analyst is to capture those decisions, those communication results, and to move them to a storage location, like where you store your business analysis information. Slack, Skype, Microsoft Teams, your inbox, your emails are not considered to be a good place to store business analysis information. First of all, because those messages can be lost, they're difficult to find, and especially if this communication happens only between you and one other person, it is not accessible, and you are communicating some important decisions probably. Yes, we approved this and that. Let's start working on this, right? This is something that should be known by a much bigger group than just you and that person who you are talking to, probably project sponsor, right? And please remember that such important decisions, I'm not saying copy all your communication from Microsoft Teams to Confluence. No, I am saying just make sure that you constantly monitor that communication that is going on in instant messaging and in emails, and extract those important pieces of information that are worth to be documented in a knowledge base and become accessible to everybody, right? Because again, in my experience, it happened many times when we are saying, well, we are doing this and delivering this next week, and we need this because that and this and that. And someone asks, well, who approved that? And someone else tells, well, it was sent by John in Slack. And nobody can find that message, right? And this is not what we need. That is why important decisions, important communication results that influence the initiative as a whole, the efforts of the team, they should always be moved from these channels to a knowledge base. And one important thought here is that you are not the only person who will be contributing business analysis information on the project. Even if a team is small and there are 3 people only, for example, or 2 people only, right? Or if the team is big, which is like more obvious, you are not going to be the only person working with that knowledge base, probably where you store all your business analysis information. Other people will contribute, and it is good that they can contribute, right? Business, even they will contribute even to the business analysis information. Probably your stakeholders will go and review your work results and leave comments that you need to process. Probably they will add new pieces of information, add some documents into the knowledge base that you use, right? Maybe they will be adding, I don't know, something else. Well, the key thing is that there should be an owner behind that project space in a knowledge base. In my example here, it's Confluence space, right? There should be one owner because it's always a collaborative effort, right? The initiative itself is a collaborative effort. There are always teams working on the initiatives, and the whole team will be contributing and adding their data to Confluence space, for example. But there should be one owner. If it's nobody's, then nobody takes care of the structure in that Confluence space. So make sure there is one recognized and acknowledged owner of that Confluence space who monitors the structure, probably moves several separate pages into other like sub pages or whatever, and keeps the structure easy to navigate. Because if no one has that level of authority, basically to be the owner of the space in a knowledge base, it will very soon become a mess, right? So for it not to become a mess, there should be one owner. And if it is difficult to approach and you are saying, well, I as a business analyst will be able to decide like where a certain page should go to, under which parent page it should be stored. If it is difficult to approach and difficult to make such decisions, you can elaborate a RISE metrics for this, right? For the Confluence space management. Who can be informed, who should be informed, who should be accountable, responsible, and consulted. But there should be one owner who always monitors the structure and the order in that knowledge base. And also try to maintain the single source of truth, right? If you have selected your Confluence space, and I understand that it is not always you who select the Confluence space, right? Because it can be the company standard, the company policy that only Confluence is used on all the initiative, or only some other type of software is used. It is not necessarily your personal decision, right? But what I'm trying to say here is try to limit those types of sources of information that you maintain on your initiative. Because when there is a single source of truth, whenever any question arises in any team member's mind, they know where to go to find the answer. They know that this is the Confluence space that they should go, navigate the structure, and find what they need. When you have multiple different sources, for example, something is stored here, other type of data is stored there, the third type of data is stored in the third location, it raises more questions, it is less predictable, and it takes more time to find what people need. Maybe it is you, maybe it is other team members, right? And if you are using a knowledge base and there are already plugins that allow you, for example, Confluence has a plugin for diagrams, right? Well, try using that plugin inside Confluence so you maintain that single source of truth rather than using absolutely separate solutions that are not linked to Confluence. But in case you do use other solutions because it's the only way to document something or to approach something, probably make sure you at least put the links to those external sources to your main storage, to your main Confluence space, in my example. So now I would like to review with you a structure that I have created here. Again, it doesn't mean that it is absolutely correct. This doesn't mean that it is the only right approach. This is just an example of the structures that you can maintain in a knowledge base. It can be Confluence, it can be something different. It can even be Google Drive for those companies that don't have an organized storage knowledge base, right, systems. But still, what I have here. So I would start with the project management or probably product management. Again, environments are different. Some are formal, others are informal. Some are waterfall, more waterfall environments, right? Others are more agile, somewhere on that continuum between the waterfall and agile. So they can be project management materials. And what I also like doing when there are many pages under the parent page, I always insert the child pages to be displayed like this, so that we can see what is inside. It is always good to have a project vision, because it's something inspiring that tells the whole team what are we doing and why we are doing. And this raises the intrinsic motivation of the team members, right? They can be project plan and timeline, product development approach, risk register, the list of development team members and roles, the business team names and their important information, such as name, position, role, email, cell phone probably, and time zone. If you are a remote team and people are in different time zones, this may be necessary, right? Then we have communication and collaboration section here. In my experience, it was worth having this section because we had always regular communication with our stakeholders, right? And it is important to document communication approach and schedule, again, so that everybody knows that we have, for example, daily stand-up calls within the team. We have regular weekly meetings once a week with our key stakeholders, and so on and so forth. So this communication approach and schedule, again, help you build that solid ground so that everybody understands what is going on and when those activities are going on, so that you are not getting the questions like, are we meeting with our business team today? When is the next meeting? And so on and so forth. Then meeting agendas and notes, and key important things here. As you know, in many knowledge-based systems, the name of a page should be unique. It will never allow you to create more than one page with the same name. That is why if we are creating a meeting agenda, we would always add the date so that we know, so that the name of the page becomes unique. And several useful practices here is that we document the meeting agenda for the upcoming call. The same page would have the meeting notes published here in the list of action points, right? And once that meeting is over, assume our today's call is over, and I know that our calls are weekly, right? I would create the next page for the next meeting agenda immediately for October the 2nd. Next Wednesday is October the 2nd, right? And what I would do, now I have a week from today till the next Wednesday to prepare for my next call with my stakeholders who I meet once a week, right? And I wouldn't wait for Tuesday evening or Tuesday morning to start thinking about that agenda. During my whole week, while doing my daily activities, I understand that, well, this is something that we need to discuss with them, and I need to add this to the agenda. So during all those 5 business days before the next call, I would add step by step those items that come up, so that on Tuesday morning or Tuesday evening, I just review and send it out to everybody to make sure that they are aware of what will be discussed on Wednesday, October the 2nd, right? So this is a good practice to create a page for the next communication moment, for the next meeting, right before this one is over, so that you can work the whole week on it. And this will allow you not to lose some important points or items that should be covered during the next call. And one more important practice here is that when it is Tuesday night, October the 1st, and I'm working on my agenda for October the 2nd, I would also open the agenda from the previous call one more time to review the action points, to understand their current statuses, and to follow up on those items that were not fully covered at the previous call. So you work like back and forth between your today's call that has just finished and your next call, and you have the whole week to elaborate the full high quality agenda that is comprehensive, like it has everything you need. And you also then, the night before the call, go back to the previous agenda and make sure that you have items to follow up on all those items that haven't been covered on the previous call. And this approach here, when I add a separate page for each meeting with the date stamp here, may be overwhelming, right? If an initiative is relatively big, and then by the end of the year, I will have about how many weeks there are in a year? 54, 52. I will have about 52 pages here, right? For each separate agenda. I archive them to keep the structure. These are all the best practices to keep the structure nice and clear, right? If I understand that I already have 52 pages here for all the agendas for the past year, which will be 2024, and now 2025 begins, what I would do is right here, I would go and create a new page called Meeting Agendas and Notes 2024. And then I will move all those 50 pages for the 2024 into that folder, and now create a new folder called Meeting Agendas and Notes 2025 and keep working only in that folder. Why is that important? Because again, if I come here and see 52 pages for 2024, and now we are in 2025 meeting again with our customers, it is hard to find the needed agenda when you have more than 50 pages in the list, right? But if you have separate folders, it is much easier. You can navigate easier. And if you can navigate easier, you are doing your business analysis information management efficiently, right? And it is not only easy for you, it is also easier for your stakeholders, especially those who attend the calls. The same would be with feedback and action points. So in case we receive any feedback from our stakeholders, we can always document it with a timestamp, see who it was submitted by, how it was submitted. Here in my example here, I have Slack. And this is an example of a decision when the exchange of information happens in instant messaging, right? But it is worth moving it to a knowledge base because it is a change request, right? And we cannot start working on an item that has been just messaged in Slack and not documented anywhere. So this is how we would organize this. So let's go back to the topic of the structure. So project management materials, then communication and collaboration, then technical design specification probably, right? And this is the place where more technical documentation can be stored, and probably those pieces of information that are not created, elaborated, compiled by business analyst, but rather by probably development team lead or solution architect or any other more technical roles, right? Such as technology stack, the integration with third-party services, the schema of a microservice if we are following the microservices architecture, and so on and so forth. And then I have here two versions for product requirements specification. Well, one version for me would be if you document the requirements by their type, as per the Babok guide, right? When you have business, stakeholder, solution, and transition requirements, or the other version, which may be more convenient, what we would do is we would put some general product information and assume this is an initiative where we develop a custom mobile app, custom system administrator portal that will be built from scratch, and also customer portal, right? These are the three components. Then we would probably have some general product information stored here, and this might be any business analysis artifact, any business analysis information relevant to everything, to the whole solution, right? Such as glossary, data dictionary, business rules, probably email templates if we are sending out email notifications to our users, to the system administrator, and to the customer portal users, mobile app users. And then we would have separately the documentation for the customer portal and also for the mobile app and system administrator portal. Right, and what else here? Documents and materials. This would be the section where you store the documents received from third-party vendors, for example. You're integrating with Stripe, as in my example before, and they send you the API documentation. Well, this is where you can go and add a page separately for that document. And this way, if you know that you are looking for something that was not created by your development team, that was sent to you from a third-party source, you know where to find this information. It will be in this documents and materials section. Also, in case there is any type of reporting on your project, like weekly progress reports, probably monthly reports or demo sessions, you can also put them all here, similarly add a date stamp and the weekly status report itself, right? And use it, organize it this way. So in case a business stakeholder comes and he is looking for a report, he knows where to find the report very easily. It is obvious that it is not in the specification, it's not in project management materials, it's right here in the reporting section. And then credentials and access info, for example, you have a staging environment, production environment, you have access to other third-party accounts that you are using on the initiative or you are integrating with, and this is where you can have this. And also one important thing is archived data, right? During the course of an initiative, which can be pretty long, which can last several years, right? You may be creating some materials, some business analysis, artifacts that become irrelevant or outdated or are not needed anymore. But probably it is not always a good approach to delete the page from Confluence altogether, because maybe it will become relevant a bit later. Well, for those materials that currently seem to be irrelevant and not needed, but you still do not want to delete them, you may want to create an archived data section and just put all such materials into there. So this is just a simple example of a simple structure that can be followed in order to keep it as easy to navigate. But again, I'm not saying that that's the only way to do this, and it is highly dependent on the context and initiative itself. Okay, children display, upcoming event, archiving. Okay, we have covered all these items here. Now let's proceed to the next slide. Cross-linking. Cross-linking is super important, and I was using that example of a puzzle, right? If you're adding something new into your knowledge base, it should be somehow linked to other pieces of data that you already have there. And typically on software development projects, you will have Confluence and probably Jira, right, for tasks tracking and progress tracking. In other environments, it can be other two types of systems, but it is always a task that someone should complete, and there is some supportive documentation behind this. Well, at least these two types of items should always be linked. Again, it improves the value flow process. It saves time for your team members. It improves the navigation process because someone comes in the morning, opens their Jira board, see a task that they need to complete. They open the task, it says, create the login flow or something. But inside the Jira task, they already have all the links they need, and it is easy, and they don't have to wait for you to show and explain them something. They can just start working. Okay, and I have here an example of cross-linking. Let's see this. It's a wireframe here. So this is just a very simple documentation for a customer portal wireframe sign up, right? That would include the overview, what this sign up is for, how we can sign up for this platform, and the useful links. What useful links can include? This is my main point here. I want to talk about cross-linking. Well, if the sign-up process was thoroughly discussed, and remember, we are building a software from scratch, from ground up, there is nothing yet. If the sign-up process was discussed with the business stakeholders at the call before, we can probably put that link here so that we can refer to this and find when and why and how it was discussed later on. If there are also user stories that you are creating to go together with this wireframe, this is great. Link the page with the user stories and even name those exact items in the list of user stories that are relevant to this particular wireframe. If you're having a data dictionary in your knowledge base, right, and you're presenting the validation and the rules for all the different types of fields and how the errors should be shown in the screen in case validation is not passed successfully. So this becomes like more clear how the developer should implement this, right? And then in case there are emails, like email notifications coming together with this sign up functionality, you can always you can also link those, right? Like email templates, items 1, 2, and 3. And if we go here, we see that the backend developer, not probably the front end, but the backend developer should also think about the emails that should be created, right? Like welcome to the platform and so on and so forth. And what is also important, of course, Jira tickets where this work will be done. And another type of links that could be added here, could have been added here, is probably the sign up wireframes for the mobile app. Remember, I said that we are having customer portal, a mobile app, and system administrator portal. Well, if there is sign up through in the mobile app as well, add those links to those wireframes for the mobile app as well. Because if it is a backend developer who is looking at this, he might compare the screens, the sign-up screens for the web interface, for the mobile apps, to make sure that those endpoints he or she creates in the backend will sufficiently work for both types of the customer-facing part, right? So this is the type of the cross-linking that may be helpful and efficient. Okay, we have 8 minutes left, so let's try to cover the rest. Avoid duplication, right? Sometimes we tend to document the same thing more than once. Try to avoid such scenarios because, well, it creates duplicate effort, right? You will be doing, if you're updating one part, you will have to update the second part to keep them consistent. If you put the same piece of information into different sections, for example, right? And if you want to add the same piece of data into another place, instead of copying it, just link them. I will explain what I mean here. Assume I have that wireframe for the sign-up process, right, that I was showing you. This is probably a silly example, but still I just want to show what I mean. In the wireframe section, we want to know that there are email notifications that should be sent to users when they sign up, right? That thank you for your sign up. We will review your account and approve. That's the type of the email they receive. And you may want probably to make it easier for the team to see the whole picture together, just insert the text of those emails right into this page. But at the same time, you have a separate page where all the email templates are documented. So instead of just copying these email texts into this page, cross-link them. Because in case that email changes, you will have to remember all the different places where you documented it, go to all those pages and make updates everywhere. Do not duplicate, just link, right? And another example here is assume you are running a survey. And that's the only tool, there is no built-in tool for a survey in Confluence, and you are using Google Forms. And when you are using Google Forms for a survey, all the answers get automatically documented in a Google spreadsheet. And it isn't worth copying the information from that Google spreadsheet and inserting it into a grid in a Confluence space, because more answers may be coming in right to that Google spreadsheet, and you will need to spend time regularly to update that information in Confluence. Instead, just create a page in Confluence, because I've mentioned before that you should have one single source of truth, right? But create a page, say survey name ABC results, and keep the link here to that Google spreadsheet. Do not copy the grid, do not copy the results, but link the Google spreadsheet to your main source of truth, your Confluence space, for example. Okay, now updates and versioning. We know that changes happen, and that's okay for changes to happen. Nothing stays the same. Like any business analysis artifact, any business analysis piece of information may change. But it is important to clearly identify and document those updates and version them so that, again, all the stakeholders can stay on the same page. Never do this. Like, for example, I have a wireframe. I will refer to the same one here. And once you're working on it, it is your work in progress. You haven't communicated it to anybody else and you are changing it. Of course, you are not documenting any updates. Only after it has been reviewed, approved, agreed, and further work has started on it, for example, the development process, and then some changes happen, this is when the updates and the changes should be clearly identified and documented. So never just open your wireframe or whatever this is, it can be any other business analysis artifacts, make changes and pretend this is how it was always, right? Instead, document the summary of the updates, like when it was changed, why it was changed, the source for reference, where the reasoning for change is explained. Create a new version and highlight those places that have changed so that for everybody else, it is easy to see why the change occurred, how the change occurred, and what exactly has been changed. Specifically with those my email templates, assume the text of an email template is changed, and I just click edit, change the text, and tell the team, well, email templates have changed. Well, how they know what changed? They compare the versions of the page in Confluence and try to find the differences. Instead of doing this, document the summary of the updates, highlight what's changed, and introduce a newer version. It can look, it can look like this. Sorry about that. So, for example, you're updating that same wireframe for the sign-up because the business stakeholder told you that now you don't need Facebook, Twitter, and Google options on the sign-up. Instead, you should keep just only the sign-up via email and also collect credit card information on that very screen, right? And you're basically changing the existing sign-up wireframe, and the functionality for that sign-up process has already been developed. So what you do is you're saying version 1.2, update date is this. Update source is this, like requested by the client and link when and how it was requested. Update summary, add the step to collect credit card, keep only the option to sign up via email address. Updated wireframe is below, right? And you have this and this. You do not simply make changes on the previous screen without adding that summary of change, because this is how it is easy to communicate the changes to the teams, to the relevant stakeholders. Then reuse of documents, requirements, and materials. We always strive to not waste time on what shouldn't be done, right? And when you are working on different initiatives, think about what can be reused and simply copy-paste it from one project space to another project space, right? One good candidate is business analysis information management plan that we were looking at the very beginning, right? If you once have it, and then you have another initiative, it is one of the good candidates to be reused. Just copy and paste it into the new knowledge base or the new project space. Of course, you might need to update it a little bit, but the core, the structure will already be here. And when you're working on an initiative, keep this in mind. Try thinking about what can I reuse next time, and probably add a label or keep those links somewhere else so that you can then just use the work results that you have already created. And some good candidates will always be common features or services. For example, that sign-up screen, if we are working on another initiative that also involves sign-up, it can probably be reused and just updated a little bit. Data dictionaries, glossaries, non-functional requirements, and recurrent tasks materials. Like if you are sending weekly reports, you may not create each weekly report from scratch, right? Especially if you have an email template for sending that report. Just copy the previous one, update relevant parts in the report, and send it. So try to save your time on those activities where you can save it. Okay. And this is basically the biggest part of what I wanted to talk about today. Just a few more notes here. Why do business analysts should even take care of business analysis information? Why is it our responsibility, right? And even at the beginning of the webinar, I've mentioned that it will always be a collaborative effort. Other team members, other stakeholders, the business stakeholders will always contribute to your business analysis information. But why is it you who should be taking care of the good structure, good storage, the ease of navigation, the understanding, the needed level of detail, and so on and so forth? Well, because by definition, business analysis is the practice of enabling change, right? And change can be achieved, like in my example, building customer portal, mobile app, and system administrator portal from scratch. This change can be achieved only through the series of consistent steps taken by the whole team. It is not only you who is making this change happen. It is always a team or a team of teams, probably. And for this collaborative effort to be successful and to deliver the results, the good results, right, they should always be the shared and agreed understanding of the context, initiative, business, solution, requirements, and documentation. And you are the one who is building that foundation of agreed and shared understanding. And to build and maintain that agreed and shared understanding, you should structure the information and make it accessible to the people who should be able to access it. It is part of building a shared understanding and enabling change. So we have talked a lot about efficient information management, and I think I'll need about 5 more minutes to finish. If you don't have time, you can then watch the recording. If you still have time, please stay. So what is then deficient information management? Well, deficient information management is the opposite, which is like obvious, right? No connections between the pieces of information, right? Like everything is isolated and a big picture is not being seen and found. Then conflicts in business analysis information. An easy example is that, for example, on one page for the you use the word email for the login field, on the other you say login. Well, what should we do? We should put email as the name of the field or login, right? And this is a very simple and easy example, but there can be more serious conflicts in the business analysis information. Duplicated data, or you yourself cannot find what you need or what others ask you to find. Like who told us about this requirement? When were the details of this requirement discussed, right? And you don't know where it was, because you remember that you were sending messages in Slack, you had an online call, you had some offline communication, and you cannot find what you need. Or other stakeholders cannot find what they need. Or they always ask for your help to find what they need, or tell you, for example, well, today I need to document this and that in Confluence. Where should I do this, right? This signals you that they do not understand the structure that you are maintaining. When some important information, decisions, approvals, concerns, assumptions are stored in the inbox only, in your emails, right? Or other stakeholders cannot contribute because of not having the access to the information or having the wrong level of access. This is the type of the deficient information management, and what this will result in. Well, there will be mess with the business analysis information in this case. There will be errors in business analysis information. If there are errors in your business analysis information, there will be lack of understanding, stakeholders will feel not heard, lack of trust, incomplete requirements, and errors and missed deadlines, right? So, and it can result, depending on the level, how deficient business analysis information management is on a project, on an initiative, it can result with unwillingness to collaborate, to the total dissatisfaction and feeling like they are wasting time and they do not understand the goal of the business analysis work on an initiative, right? So just to sum it up, efficient business analysis information management is about when all necessary, not everything, not every single word, but everything you think gives value. All necessary data is stored in knowledge base, relevant stakeholders have access, and their level of access is the one they need. No important data is stored in emails, messages, or in inbox. The business analysis artifacts are linked to each other, and the big picture is seen, the cohesive whole is there. The business analysis information is easy to locate and find, and it is up to date, and business analyst acknowledges the ownership of this management process, information management process, and takes good care of it. So today we have discussed what business analysis information is, how business analysts can contribute to this process and manage and organize it, and talked about an example of the structure, about cross-linking, and some other best practices. And I want to finish with this page here showing Agile Manifesto, and it is said here that work in software over comprehensive documentation. And in my opinion, sometimes this phrase has been playing a bad joke with teams and initiatives when it was understood as, well, we need working software, we don't need documentation. No, we need working software and we need documentation. But the level of detail, the type of the documentation you need is part of those decisions that business analysts make on a project. And even an Agile Manifesto, they keep saying there is value in the items on the right, but we value the items on the left more. So it is not or working software or comprehensive documentation. Of course, you need working software, but you also need sufficient documentation. This is it. So if you have any questions or comments, let's discuss them. Anybody? Let me open chat. I probably stop sharing my screen right now. And chat. Architectural input is also IIBA information, right? Well, it is part of business analysis information. It will not likely be elaborated by a business analyst, probably by a technical person, but it will be part of the business analysis information. Let me scroll up just a second. It built the connections. Okay. What's the difference between the project information and BA information, if any? Well, let's think about it. As Babok says, right? It's any information business analysts elicit, create, compile, and distribute. And if, depending on your organization and your list of responsibilities, if you are not doing like project management activities, but solely business analysis activities, and project plan is being created by the project manager or product manager, then and you are not contributing to it, then probably this is not part of business analysis information. But it will likely be stored somewhere near the business analysis information because it is part of the initiative, and you will need to link your work results to the project plan, right? Because you're also working on the project. Oh, there wasn't an answer that I've not seen. Okay, thank you, Leonid, for sharing. Else? Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Okay, I don't see any more questions. In case you do have any questions or want to ask them later, please feel free to message me in LinkedIn. And again, I want to thank you all for coming today and for spending time with me today. Can we have a deck to download? I will certainly have the recording of the webinar placed on the website. You can visit it later once the recording is ready. It is advancededge.org, and in the resources section, let me share that so that you can then find it. I can also certainly connect. Can you see my screen with that slide deck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So here on the website, we have, just a second, the resources section. And in the resources section, you can go to the webinars section. And here you will find those that have already occurred with the links to watch them. And here you can now see only the register for webinar button, but once we finish, I will add the link to the recording, and I can also add the link to the slide deck here. So just check it probably several hours after we finish. Okay.
Thank you, Anastasia.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, then I think we can finish for now. Thank you very much again. I was happy to see you all. Thank you very much for joining. Have a nice day or evening, depending on your time zone. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Goodbye.